Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another podcast in the series The World According to Sam Marshall. I'm delighted today to be joined by Alison Marsden. Alison and I have known each other for, it's getting on for 6 months now, Alison. It's a long, long time in the world of data. Alison is a movement specialist and a food coach under the banner, her company, Integrating Health. As you can see from the background, there is a QR code behind Alison or over her left shoulder, which will give you access to all her website details, research, online classes. But we'll talk more about that later. I'm absolutely fascinated by Alison and what she does and how she does it. Experienced in yoga and the Alexander technique. She's a teacher, she's a trainer, she's a published author. But you know what? I'm actually going to let Alison tell you more about that. So, welcome, Alison. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Sam.
If you were meeting this audience for the first time, what would you tell them about yourself?
Well, I would say I help people who have been to a physio or an osteopath. They've tried the exercises and they're still in pain. They may be considering an operation, which they want to avoid, or maybe they've had an operation, has not been successful. They're kind of at the end of the line and they come and see me through various people I know, or I might do a talk, and I teach them a process where they discover how their daily habits are causing the problem. And that's why these other methods don't work, because they look at manipulating structure rather than changing the underlying habit. So that's the difference.
I'm hearing this more and more now from various different avenues and different disciplines. And it feels like we've got quite used to putting a sticking plaster over a problem. Well, okay, that'll stop the bleeding for a little while, and it maybe will help the skin to mend back together, but it won't stop the scarring and it won't, so I'm really intrigued by this. So tell me how you got into yoga and Alexander, and then we'll sort of move on up more into the more recent stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate that because I had a back pain, a repeated back problem in my early 20s. But I didn't go and seek a quick fix. Well, I did initially because I went to see an osteopath and they yanked me back in alignment and I was able to go back to work after a couple of weeks. But then my back would go again after 6 months. So I went to see the osteopath. They janked me. It's not a very nice experience. On a par to going to the dentist in those days. I think there's much more gentle approaches these days. But I quickly thought, I want to know what I've been doing in those last 6 months to cause a problem again. So, because at that time, my job was fixing computer problems. So I already had an eye of, well, it's no good fixing a problem that's only going to last a couple of weeks, going to be back here, and I've got a whole pile of other work to do. So I need to find a long-term solution to fixing the computer. So, and that is a problem that people have. Like you say, they're too used to putting a plaster on there or taking some medication which dulls the symptoms but doesn't get to the underlying cause. And that's the mental shift that people need to take. If they start thinking, no, I need to start looking at a longer term solution, and they're beginning to do that. With the NHS service, they're seeing that the NHS just mask the symptoms, and then you create a side effect of the medication or another problem happens. But I just want you to know that I'm not going to paint a bad picture of the NHS because they've saved my life twice, actually, because I had a miscarriage and I had to have an emergency transfer to hospital. And in another pregnancy, I was struggling to give birth at home and had another emergency transfer to hospital. So they, the NHS, I think, are really good in emergencies. But
Yeah.
if it's a chronic condition, they're too interested in a short-term solution, but then it creates a bigger problem further down the line, which is what
Yeah, I
happened to my dad. Yeah.
absolutely agree with you there. I myself have experienced emergency care from them more times than I wish to remember. I've broken arms, I've broken legs, I've had suppurating abscesses. They have been absolutely fantastic, all of them. But it is this long term,
Yeah. I think they need to start having a
yeah.
approach to. So for my story with my dad, he had bowel cancer, and they just cut out part of his colon, gave him a stoma, and thought that would be the end of the problem. But 7 years down the line, he got Alzheimer's. And the words of the doctor who came round to assess him were, "This is why we can't just cut things out of people, because it creates a bigger problem further down the line." So he knew that, and that was 30 years ago. So if you think that all the stuff they've carried on doing, so there's a saying there, if you don't if you keep on sweeping up the carpet, you're creating a massive job for you later on. I can't remember what the saying is. Do you know what it is? No.
There's the old adage that if you carry on doing what you've always done, you'll always get the same results.
Yeah,
Actually, I like your analogy. You're right, because you're sweeping that dust under, and it might be under the carpet, but actually, that mound is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until someone is going to trip over it, and you've gone, "Oh, well, I only swept a little bit every day."
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And my dad actually died 2 years later. So he died in 2000, and it's now 26 years later. And when he died, I'd only just started my Alexander training. I didn't have any thought of me getting into the health profession. I just wanted to get out of IT. I just thought, oh, I'm going to train and do this and just have a complete U-turn in my career. So when I started writing my book, I realized that he was chirping away at me, saying, "You've got to carry on doing this. You've got to carry on doing this." So, yeah.
I think it's interesting that 26 years later, we're still doing the same things, because my brother-in-law, um, 7 years ago, actually, now, my brother-in-law was given a stoma bag for
Oh, okay.
stage 4 bowel cancer. And there's, that's what they did at the time, but that doesn't seem to be any different to what they did for your dad. And given that in February of this year, we lost mother-in-law to Alzheimer's, it's in the family. Now, the very interesting thing, we moved up to Scotland in 2017. At that time, my husband would have been 57. In England, bowel cancer screening did not start until 60. My brother-in-law is 2 years older. So as we moved up, my husband was 57, his brother was 59. Within a month of us being here, Scottish NHS got him to do the poop test, the
Okay.
bowel cancer screening test, which he did, sent back. They said, "There's an anomaly. Can you do it again, please?" They called him in. So September and October was spent going back and forth to the hospital to see what was going on. And in the November, they said, right, yeah, CT scan shows polyps, nothing more than polyps. It's not a problem. We are going to remove 30 centimeters of your bowel where the polyp is. And it's fine because I'm sorry, I'm not technical, but it's the end bit, so it won't be a problem for you.
Yeah.
You'll be in hospital for a week. So as we phoned down to let the family know, his brother said, I'm going in at the same time, but they can't do anything for me. They've literally got to remove and give me a colostomy bag forever. So their mum at this point got very worried because both her boys had got it. So she went for tests, she was clear. Rue had his 30 centimeters removed, and they came back to us in the January to tell us that it was cancerous. However, they'd got everything, no radium, no chemo was needed, and he's gone on to just live life to the full.
Good.
No requirement for a bag or anything, but we believe wholeheartedly that was because the bowel cancer screening test was available earlier here in Scotland. And in fact, 2 weeks after my brother-in-law came out having had his operation, he got his first bowel cancer screening kit.
Okay.
Which was by that point no use to him because he didn't have a bowel anymore.
Yes.
So I think that early screening, it's 50 now across the board. I think that is really important. But it does sound to me as though nothing has changed since your dad's time.
Yeah, and it is sad. It is sad because there's so much you can do about your diet. Although it is a struggle because I'm going away on holiday next week, and I will be exposed to the acid forming, dehydrating, high GI foods. And I'm thinking, right, I've got to navigate my way through this, which is part of my next book. Just to help people navigate, because my clients, when they come to me with their digestive issues, they finally get a routine at home and they're really happy and they feel confident that they're not worried about getting cancer or IBS or whatever it is that they've got or had. And but they say, but when I go on holiday, it's really hard to do it. So that's the diary of me going on holiday and talking about how, because when I had my first child, my pelvic floor was ripped, 3rd-degree tears, which is really bad, and I had to have stitches. I also then didn't want to have a bowel movement afterwards. It was incredibly painful. It's more painful than childbirth because at childbirth you have these natural painkillers produced, whereas you haven't got that when you're having a poo. And I thought I really need to be on the case. There's no way I could be constipated. I need my stools to be really nice and loose and eliminate easily. So I was totally on board with that. And then this is about 20 years later, I got diarrhea, really bad diarrhea, where it's just water coming out of you. And so when I started introducing food again, it was all really simple stuff like white rice, anything, white fish, and gradually started to eat more fiber. But I went too far the other way. I thought, hey, this is really good. I can have all this white stuff. And I ended up, because I was at work in a hotel, so I got dehydrated. I ended up eating some chocolate cacao, which is very dehydrating. And to settle my digestion, I was having black tea, which is a diuretic. I just had all these things happen which weren't in my favor, and they just knocked me too far the other way. And so I got constipated. And when you get really bad constipation, it's absolutely awful. So I'm on the case because I'm hill walking. I want to have my bowel movement in the morning while I'm at the hostel. I don't want to be having it up on top of a hill somewhere.
No, absolutely. I think that it's very interesting what can bring around a constipation that is not only food related. I have just had 3 weeks of antibiotics. Well, I've actually had 4 weeks of antibiotics. I had 2 weeks, a week off and a week back on. And my head just went down when I realised, because if I don't take kefir alongside,
Yeah.
I'm in all sorts of trouble. Now, I don't take kefir every day, and I think perhaps I should. I'm a type 2 diabetic, so kefir will eat that sugar. So I think that might help me. You've talked about making food choices, and anyone that is diabetic out there, that we have the jokes that we put on social media that says the day in the life of a diabetic is like being a physicist and a mathematician all rolled into one, because, or and a chef, because you're looking at a food portion and you're estimate, if you haven't cooked it, you're estimating its size and its portion, you're estimating the carb load. Everyone's got their own individual ratio,
Yeah.
and then you are working out your ratio against your carb load, so you work out how much insulin you need in the morning and as you're going through the day, and it can be exhausting. And
So
you can,
sorry,
go on.
I was going to say, are you on medication for it? You're on metformin? Yeah.
No, I'm on insulin. Metformin never worked for me. I was first prescribed metformin when I was 18 years old for polycystic ovaries. And we read all of the contraindications, and I had everything that was opposite to what it should be. And the metformin didn't work for me then. And when I became type 2 diabetic, they put me on metformin again. And my sugars were never, ever, ever, ever in control. Even when I lost 7.5 stone, my sugars were not in control on metformin. And it culminates in 2023 with me being emergency admitted into hospital with a separating abscess in an incredibly private place. I was admitted at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and was on the operating table at 6 o'clock that evening.
Yeah.
And they told me I was probably something like 4 to 6 hours away from sepsis. So that was the point that I said, I'm not coming out on tablets, I'm coming out on insulin. There was a heated debate over a couple of days, but in the end they just went, right, just go with insulin. I now have, you won't be able to see it, I now have a monitor, continuous glucose monitor. That has done more for me than anything else, because I can test foods and I now know which foods work for me and which don't. And sometimes it is surprising.
Well, also in my book, you've got the power of timing. So you can't just have, well, bananas raise my blood sugar by this much. What time of day it is, what time of month is it, how dehydrated are you? Because if you're dehydrated, it's gonna. So it's a moving feast. To me, it's an art. Because when I was going through the menopause, I realised that I'm having hot flushes, waking up at night, anxiety attacks, because as the blood sugar level rises, because there's not enough estrogen to stabilize your blood sugar. So you get these shakes, and then you start worrying, and then you're into a panic attack. And so it's all about stabilizing your blood sugar levels. And with my clients who've got diabetes, I say to them, your mantra is, I don't need any carbohydrates, because my body will convert protein into carbohydrate or glucose. Your body will convert fat into ketones, and they're energy sources. So your body will be able to play with that. So that's the mantra for you to think. But in our enjoyment of food and all the rest of it, you think, oh well, maybe I could get away with this. So
You
this time of
do
day,
know that as a diabetic, we're not taught about ketones. The
yes,
only time that this came up was when I used to finger prick, and they would be going, "Oh, your blood's sat at 16. We must ketone." Now they put the fear of the Almighty into me, because my understanding was if I had any ketones in my body, I was needing to go to the NHS quickly, and that's utter rubbish.
yeah,
It's well, I've been told for diabetics, if I go above 5, actually, if I go above 3, I've got a bit of a problem.
yeah.
But interesting you talk about no carb at all, because I went keto in October last year. And I loved my toast. I loved my sandwiches. I'm a crisp fiend. I'm a cracker
Yeah,
fiend.
yeah,
And I went, I have done every diet that is out there. And the one that did work for me when I lost the 7.5 stone was Weight Watchers, until they changed their program.
ah.
And when they changed their program, I started putting weight on.
Oh, how did they change the program?
It was to do with that we had points. This is right back in 2001, and it was a points system. And I understood that for my weight, I was 22 stone 3 at the time. And I understood that for my weight, I could have 28 points a day. And
Yeah,
I knew what I could have. So I knew that tomatoes were free, cucumber, lettuce, celery, they were all free. That an apple was 0.5 point, a banana was up to 1.5 points, fish and chips was 22 points.
right, gratitude.
But on 24 points a day, 28 points a day rather, I could fit that in once or twice a week
Because of your weight.
because of my weight.
Yeah.
As my weight went down, so the points went down.
Yeah.
And I got on extremely well with this program. And then they decided, because they have to decide, I suppose, to get new people on board, they were going to tweak it and change the way the points worked. And I now had 47 points a day. And suddenly, even though I was eating the same as I was eating before, suddenly 47 points just became, I've got too many points left over. And then we were told that we had to eat to within 5 of those points. So I would be sat there at 9 o'clock at night going, I've got 12 points to eat. What on earth am I going to do? Didn't work for me.
No, didn't
So
work.
a lot of the principles I still put in place. I still eat a salad. I still eat vegetables. Um, but as I say, I did like my carbs. And so we cut out potatoes. And actually, of all of them, potatoes is the one we missed the least.
Yeah.
I find that quite strange. Sometimes miss rice, sometimes miss pasta, miss bread nearly every day. But I work around that.
Yeah.
So I will go and do some more research now on ketones.
Yeah. Well,
Because
I've done
I've
blog
been
on
trying
things,
to,
so
right, we'll have a look at that then, because I've been trying to keep mine low.
I've called it flexibly fit at burning fat. Because people really struggle to kickstart their body to start breaking down fat.
Yeah.
Because the body's just got lazy in using glucose as the energy source. So if you devise a lifestyle so that you can engage in that, just like you do with exercise, you might exercise 3 times a week. I don't know, you do. So I've got a friend, she does Tai Chi in the morning. She's quite fit, she goes running, but she always has her breakfast before. And I said, well, you want to have your breakfast after your Tai Chi, because you're doing some exercise and you haven't eaten all night. So that starts stimulating your body to go, if it hasn't got any glucose storage, glycogen storage in your muscles and your liver, it then goes to your fat. And that's what you want. And when it goes to the fat, it's like you going into your house and going into the understairs cupboard. It's like, oh, right, I've got to clear all this out. So your body's having to go deep into the body. And so it says, oh, we might as well do a detox here. Or we might as well, oh, look, there's a dead cell there. Let's get rid of that and replace it with a new one. There's that sort of thing that goes on when you start going into ketosis. But you don't need to have 100% no carbohydrate to go into ketosis. And this is a lot of misunderstanding, that people think that they have to have 0 carbohydrates in their diet to go into ketosis. You just want to be doing some light exercise and to an extent that you're using up all that glycogen storage, and then you have to go to your fat reserves. Yeah.
Well, you get your carbs out of your vegetables, don't you? So the limited, and I do believe it's limited knowledge that even the specialists have in the NHS. In the first 6 months that I was diagnosed, onto insulin, I had 3 different people give me 3 different amounts of carb that I was supposed to have. One said I could have absolutely no more than 80 grams of carb. That was the professor of diabetes. The diabetic nurse said, no, don't be so silly. You must have a minimum of 100 grams of carb, but no more than 125. And the dietitian said, no, they're both wrong. You need a minimum of 150 grams of carb. Well, Alison, that was the point that I just went, do you know what? I'm not listening to any of you.
Exactly.
Because clearly this is opinion, not fact.
Well, I think that the key thing is that it varies. Do you see? So, and it all depends on how your body is flexible at burning the ketones. So you want to gradually, just like exercise. If someone came to me and said, I want to learn how to run 12 miles, I'd have to say, how many miles are you running at the moment? Yeah. So you've got to do it gradually, and everyone's going to be different with what food raises their blood sugar levels. How much energy does people get out of 200 grams of rice? It's going to vary. So there isn't an exact figure for everyone, and your time of day is really key as well. So I think being dehydrated makes a big difference. Yeah. So that's what I say with my clients when we go through this. Oh, I'm hungry. So, right, well, drink water, then do some light exercise, because light exercise isn't strenuous, so your body hasn't got the resources to go to fat. But it then says, oh, we haven't got enough blood sugar levels here. Let's go to the fat reserves, and then it releases the ketones, and they can use that as an energy source. And as you do that more rhythmically, and you may extend the period a bit longer, then your body then gets into this much more flexible at going into the ketones. So then you don't need so much carbohydrate. You say, oh, well, I don't need much. I mean, when I talk to people about my diet, they go, oh my God, you hardly eat any carb. How do you survive? And I think, well, it's a training process that you get to. But when you get to a place where you're hardly eating any carbohydrates, and we've got to look at the type of carbohydrates as well. So I don't eat any grains, pulses, and any of those sort of carbohydrates. I might eat sweet potato. I might eat carrots, because I think I need that from fiber. But I'm not getting my pasta and my rice and my chips and my pizzas, do you see? My bread. So when you are in that end of the spectrum where you're hardly eating any carbs, when you do eat carbs, you realize what it's doing to you. Inflammation goes up. You feel like, my skin starts to get dry and flaky. I start to get a headache.
And it's so quick, isn't it, that change?
Yeah, because you're supporting the change, because you've created a contrast, which is what the whole idea of the book is.
I went to stay with friends in London, and the husband was doing the cooking, and he had done the cooking for a long, long time, but it is very, very carb heavy. It would either be perhaps ready meals or it would be pie and chips or whatever. And there was one particular day that he said, "Well, I know you're carb free, so what I've done is I've given you pie and baked beans because I've taken the chips off." So there was a little bit of a conversation, and at this point, it was my first week with them, so I hadn't put anything in the fridge. I had to say that I need vegetables, I need broccoli, and I need spinach, and I need.
Fiber.
I'll go and
Fiber
get them.
slows down the carbohydrate. You've still got carbohydrate in the pastry anyway, in the beans.
Yeah.
But the
So
fiber.
he then said, "Oh, I've been and got you some vegetables. Oh, lovely. What have you got me? I've got you peas, sweet corn, and fine green beans." That brain fog came back, that lethargy came back, that everything hurt. And I just went, you're absolutely gorgeous. Thank you so much. I'm going to cook for myself from now on.
Yeah.
So I'm really intrigued about the book over your shoulder.
Yes, so the jigsaw method. This is you can't quite see it in there. Oh,
back of it. There we go. So into your diet, building balance into your diet with the power of the moon. Could you explain for us?
Yeah, so with that conversation we've been going, for your body, when you create a contrast, your body starts reporting things to you. And that's what we want. But we want to make a contrast that's just enough for you to notice what's going on. So the book goes through this process where you're just looking at 2 meals a week, where you get everything in balance. And then I say, and then just eat what you normally do for the rest of the week. So then you can start seeing the foods that get you out of balance. And then because your primal brain's involved in this, rather than me just telling you what to eat, you get an experience of it. You say, oh, I don't really like that bread because I've realized it makes me have low energy, I get bloated, and then I get brain fog. And then I think, oh, and then they work with substitutes. Do you see? So that's the process, that they're connecting you to your body's intelligence rather than me telling you what to eat. And as you know, people are getting contradictory information anyway, aren't they?
Absolutely.
And this is why it's really important for you to start connecting to your own body's intelligence, because what you need is dynamic. You know, you can't have a patch on you for the rest of your life telling you what to eat all the time. You want to start listening to your body. So that's what the process does. And we have these natural rhythms. So we have a 24-hour organ clock, and then we have a monthly rhythm with the moon, the full moon and the new moon, and then we have an annual rhythm. And I got into this through gardening. I do biodynamic gardening, so it's gardening with the phase of the moon to optimize your crop production. So it's getting more and more popular. They do it with wine as well, to optimize grapes with wine. And they're finding that if you plant your seeds at a certain time and do certain activities at a certain time, it makes the harvest a bigger harvest. So I was gardening one day and I was thinking, this is great. Well, why don't I carry on this process with me when I actually eat it? What was the best time to eat certain foods? So I started to research that. This is in the days where there's no internet. So I got books and read lots of things, did my own experiment, found a routine that really worked for me, and started working with my clients. Because when I took their health journey, they would talk about their bad back, and they also have bloating, or I get abdominal pain, or I wake up in the night because my digestion's unsettled, those sort of things. So that's how I started to bring in the diet into my business. And because I went through having 2 kids, parenting turns your life upside down. And then I became a single parent, and I had to look at all the shortcuts to make this as easy as possible. So this is where I devised this routine that I originally did it monthly. And then I thought, hey, this is such a good routine, I'm going to do it twice a month. And then I realized, actually following the new moon and the full moon, because it's not quite 4 weeks. So I thought it'd be really good if I always said on Sunday night, I'm going to do a rebalance. So Sunday night, Monday breakfast, and I'd change it with my lifestyle. So it used to be Friday night, because I'd get kids back from school, they'd watch a DVD, and then I could go and rest and have a bit of time for me. And I thought, wow, that's Friday night's my rebalance night. But it's Sunday now. So yeah, so finding a routine, because our food industry is obsessed with absorption, is getting us to eat things. And this process flips the coin over and says, let's optimize the elimination routes. When we get that clear, then everything starts working a lot better.
Yeah, well, that's my hope. So, as I said earlier on today, scan that QR code that sits behind Alison when she comes back on screen. And that QR code will take you to her website, where you can find that and many, many more fascinating items of research and videos that she has done. Alison, will you come back again?
I
And
think
we can talk about the things.
yeah, we did talk a lot about digestion in the end, but hopefully it's going to be of interest
Yeah.
to people. But
But
yeah,
you know what? That's why this is called The World According to Sam Marshall, because there are so many different fascinating people like yourself out there that have a message that I want to get out. We didn't know where this conversation was. In fact, this conversation did not go where we thought this conversation was going to go. But in a world of AI, where everything is so rigid, I say on every podcast, I'm trying to be authentic, and my guests are authentic. And the conversation will go where the conversation goes.
yeah.
So it's been really fascinating for me. I'm sorry, watchers and listeners, if it hasn't been quite so fascinating for you. It has been really enlightening for me as a diabetic. And sadly, there are probably now 75% of the population is now diabetic.
My God,
Yeah.
I know.
It's a horrendous number now.
Yeah.
I don't do anywhere near the amount of research that you do, but in the limited research I've done, it's about the foods that we buy week in, week out, which we buy without thinking, that are enriched with hidden sugars, hidden salts, hidden whatever. And I said to someone this morning, I predominantly drink tea during the day and water during the night. I go through about 3 liters of water. I know, but I wake up in the night, I have to keep drinking. Part of being diabetic. I used to drink Diet Coke when I was in my teens. I cried when I found out there was still sugar in Diet Coke. I had utterly no idea. Coke Zero has no sugar at all. Pepsi Max has no sugar at all.
Okay.
If I drink Pepsi Max, I can lower my blood sugars. If I drink Coke Zero, my blood sugars elevate. Now, I don't drink them regularly. As I say, water and tea are my poisons, basically. I don't even drink alcohol. So every so often I just go, yeah, I will have one. But I think there's so much hidden, and people are so busy today, they haven't got time to pick up every label and look at it. And one of my friends was saying, yeah, but you know, you've got the red, amber and green marks on the front of the food. I said, I don't ever look at them. I said, they're misleading. But
Well,
they probably do what they're supposed to, but
yeah. Well, I had a conversation with a bunch of friends the other day, and we were laughing and saying, they've got a free from aisle, free from gluten. And we were saying, we want an aisle that says free from ultra processed food. So you got half the supermarket at one end with ultra processed food in, and the other half with no ultra processed food. And they say, oh, well, it's a sliding scale, but it's just say, no, if it's got any ultra processed food, oh, we're not interested, put it in that aisle. And at least people then know.
Yeah, Chris Van Tulleken's book, I think it was called Ultra Processed People, was the book that switched me on to what now? So I say to anybody that's watching, if you haven't yet understood what ultra processed foods are, please go and look it up. It is about foods that have been manipulated with so many different ingredients that you wouldn't naturally find occurring. And there are, I don't know, peptides, this, monosodium, that, glucosamine, this and that, the other.
Okay.
If you pick up a product that has more than 4 ingredients on it and you don't recognize them, that is essentially an ultra processed food.
Yeah.
And
so you know, put the magnifying glass out, just look at the ingredients, you think, it's got loads of long words, and there's more than 4 of them, so I'm not having it. You don't have to.
I adore a bit of smoked salmon, me. Scrambled egg, smoked salmon, absolutely beautiful. Used to be on toast, it's now on a flat open field mushroom. I was gutted to pick up standard smoked salmon out of my supermarket of choice. Turn it round. What does it have in it? Sugar. So I put that back. Now, there is one that I can buy, and it is a cheap one. I almost can't believe it. It is a cheap smoked salmon, and it is literally salmon, salt, and that's it.
Great.
So that for me is like fantastic with my eggs, with my mushroom. I'm in clover.
Brilliant.
But it's just incredible what is hidden where. Alison, thank you so very much. I've got some of your contact details. I'm going to make sure I've got all the up-to-date ones. There will be a front slide, a middle slide, and an end slide that shows people how to get a hold of you. And we've made reference several times during this video that if they scan the QR code behind you, then they can access your website as well.
Yeah.
So thank you for now. Let's have you back before the year's out, and let's talk about something else. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday, and I hope you're hiking. It's a very active holiday. I hope it all goes really, really well for you, and we'll hear about what happened when you get back.
Thanks, Sam.
No worries. Bye.